Hi everyone, Dustin here again at Council Gun Club at Osprey Training Facility. We're going to do a quick couple-minute part 2 addition to the grip pressure and position video that I made yesterday, elaborating a little bit more on what I'm talking about not overemphasizing sights and trigger pull. So yes, I want to see the sight or dot on every single shot. I'm never firing without seeing that. I want to see it stop on the target. But when I come up onto the target, either from a draw or coming up into position, where that front sight or dot stops, I pretty much have to accept, a little bit of fine tuning, shifting it over to exactly where I want to hit as I finish my trigger prep and my grip locks in. But if I see a little bit of front sight wobble or a little bit of dot wobble, that is not what is causing misses. And I miss plenty. I miss in training, miss in matches, miss in classes. It's usually because I moved the gun as I fired, or I was moving into position, or moving out of position and pulled the gun off target as I fired. It's not because I didn't get an exact perfect trigger pull. It's not because I had a tiny bit of wobble or shift in the dot. So deliberately see that dot or front sight, stop on that spot you want to hit in the target. And if you see a tiny bit of movement, don't worry about it. You can't time the shot. Trying to time the shot is what causes even more anticipation and even more gun movement as you fire. So if I come up here, it shouldn't be more than a tenth or two before I'm ready to fire. If you have unacceptable shots, again, it's usually because your grip pressure is changing, your hands are moving, you're shifting the gun as you fire. So address that, and that's why I like to articulate to shooters who are having issues. I don't drill in what a lot of instructors drill in. Oh, watch your front sight, really focus on your front sight, really squeeze your trigger, because that will make most shooters try to time their shot. And if you're trying to time your shot, pull the trigger right now when I think the dot or front sight is perfect. You're squeezing with your firing hand, and you're trying to do everything on demand, and that's going to make the gun move. So again, I try to do the opposite. Yes, you need to see your front sight. It needs to be somewhat steady. It needs to be stopped on the target. You need to see your dot. But when I come up there, I kind of need to accept what I get and let the shot happen. If I have a little bit of wobble or shake in my front sight or dot, I fix that through grip work, grip pressure work, dry fire, grip strength drills, and everything else like that. So if I'm the shooter being coached and I'm pulling a lot of shots off target, and now someone is over my shoulder saying, okay, watch your dot, keep that dot steady, squeeze that trigger, I'm going to think I need to have my dot absolutely perfect and have a perfect on-demand trigger pull, and I'm going to go like that on every shot and really push the gun. So I will say, hey, if your dot is generally on target and not moving a lot, and you've stopped it on target, your front sight is generally on target, mostly centered in the back notch, don't worry about it. Just look through everything. I don't really teach front sight versus target focus or dot versus target focus. I kind of teach to look through everything. So this will fix most people having issues very quickly, especially new shooters who think that all the shots that they are missing are because they didn't have a perfect trigger pull, or they need to squeeze the gun harder or something to stop that front sight movement. I will tell them, just come up, trust your grip. Confidence is half of the game here. Trust your grip. If you have good grip pressure, good grip position, just look through everything and try to let the shot happen, let the trigger come back without thinking about it, and your shots on target will get cleaned up quite a bit. I'm always stopping the gun though, and I'm always seeing the dot or front sight on every target. I'm just not trying to like squeeze and change things to make it perfectly, absolutely steady like I'm slow firing and bullseye shooting. And last thing I like to add is, if you have a shooter who is having issues with getting tentative because they know they're missing, sometimes it is better to get them even more aggressive off the draw or more aggressive with the target transition versus telling them to slow down. So if I'm doing target transition drills, multiple targets, and shooters are firing early or late or not seeing their sight, the last thing I want to do is have them get tentative and float the gun over from target 1 to target 2 to target 3, because what that happens is they start trying to trace their dot. They watch their dot the whole time as they come over, and they're floating the gun over. This is a little bit of exaggeration, but going from target 1 to target 2, they're trying to watch the dot, and then right when they see their their dot hit cardboard, they're wanting to pull the trigger. Instead, if they're not having acceptable shots on those additional targets, I will say drive the gun over there even harder. Hey, I know you had a miss on there. I know you had some shots you weren't happy with. Don't slow it down. Drive the gun over there even more aggressively, but then trust that you have time to leave your gun stopped and locked on target for an extra tenth or 2/10 of a second before you pull that trigger. So if they were missing, again, I don't want them to start going, all right, I got to get tentative and be more careful over here and pull the trigger before the gun stops. I want them to move the gun even more aggressively over to the next target and then feel comfortable letting it stop and seeing that sight or front or dot stop as they pull the trigger. So more aggressively, target 1, target 2, and stop. Okay, target 1, target 2, stop, pull the trigger. So we're seeing that front sight or dot stop exactly where we want on that target. We're not getting tentative going over it, and we're leading with the eye. Another thing that happens when we transition slow or we slow down the draw a lot because we're having bad shots off the draw is we try to trace the dot or watch the dot the whole time as the gun moves, which we don't want. If I'm on target 1 over here, as soon as I fire my last shot on that target that I'm happy with, I call a good shot, I see that dot lift right up through the center of the target, my eye is already over to the spot I want to hit in the next target, and then the dot is coming right behind, and I'm stopping the gun. Even though it may not look like it in all my videos, I'm stopping the gun for a good tenth of a second on that spot I want to hit before I pull the trigger. So yes, I'm seeing the dot on every target. I'm seeing the dot during recoil on every target, but I'm just not stressing about it. If it's there, it's probably good enough, as long as you are not changing your grip, changing things with grip pressure, trying to do excessive movements to lock in the gun more than it needs to be as you fire. Confidence, again, is half of the game in this. Knowing that if I got my hands generally in the right place and I have good grip pressure, I don't need to worry about a perfect trigger pull that much, and I can get pretty aggressive with the gun movement as long as I stop it deliberately, see that dot or front sight, and let it happen. Okay, so I'm coming off of target 1 to target 2, my eye goes over, stop, and pull the trigger. The same thing happens for shooters having issues, and sometimes I have issues with difficult shots off the draw too. I have bad days too. We'll see this often. We're having some misses off the draw, and all of a sudden we change our draw speed and start getting tentative with the draw. If we get tentative with the draw because we're not happy with our amount of acceptable hits on a difficult target coming off the first shot, this is what a lot of people get tempted to do. They go from a normal draw like this to all of a sudden thinking if they slow things down, get tentative with their movement up to that first shot, it's going to help them on a difficult target. And that will not help. That will make things worse, because if I slow things down, get tentative, my grip pressure is not going to be the same. I'm not going to have the confidence, and I'm going to be tempted to pull the trigger before that front sight or dot even stops, because I'm kind of in slow motion and I see it coming onto the target. So this is what we don't want to do when we see a difficult target out there. We don't want to change everything and start going like that. We want to stay just as aggressive, just as confident with the draw, but then be confident and assured that we're okay with leaving a couple extra tenths of a second to see that front sight or dot stop on that difficult target off the draw. So I've had a few misses on this 25-meter piece of steel out there that I'm training on. I want to get just as aggressive, just as confident, and just leave myself a couple extra tenths for that dot to stop before I pull that trigger. So I've missed a couple, 25-meter piece of steel. I come up, and again, just a few extra tenths of a second to confirm that dot or front sight has stopped, and I'll usually have a hit with that. So to end, yes, seeing your front sight is important. Seeing your front sight or dot stop exactly where you want to hit on a target is important, but we can't overemphasize a little bit of wobble or a little bit of shift we have as we're firing. We can't change our grip pressure and overthink it to try to put too much control into the gun. We need to accept that if we have good pressure and good grip placement, we can let that trigger come back, look through the sights or through the dot, and we're going to have acceptable shots on most targets that we're going for out here.